Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Shir. We are starting. Our official daf is Samach and Aleph, 65a. I'm just going to go back to the last line on 64b. This is not Samach Daled days, just because it makes it one line and runs right into the whole piece. Okay, so we'll start with the story. The story is from Rabbi Yisrael Brog, his name. It's the grandson of Victor Miller, I believe. Tells the following story. There was a couple, and I think they were living in Eretz Israel, and they were childless. They didn't have any children, unfortunately, for many years, many years. And they went to they tried all sorts of things. They went to different schools, went to various doctors to attempt to try to find some solution to this, but to no avail. So finally they heard about a certain tzaddik who lived in the northern part of Eretz Israel. They didn't say who it was, so I don't know who it was. But some tzaddik in Eretz Israel, up north, lived in the northern part of Eretz Israel. So they got very excited. The wife said that she was going to go, and the husband said, we'll go together. They go together, they show up, and the gabbai says, do you have an appointment? He says, no, we don't. But she explained the story. And so the gabbai spoke to the Rav, and the Rav said, we'll speak in a few minutes. So they waited a few minutes, which was pretty amazing. He doesn't usually do that, by appointment only. And so they went in and they told their story. And so the husband told the story, and the wife sits there crying the whole time. She's very emotional about it, as you can imagine. Let's put Tzvi in. Okay. There we go. Morning, Tzvi. We're just saying a story from Yisrael.
Good morning.
Morning. A story about a childless couple who go up north to a certain tzaddik to get a bracha. And so they go in, and the wife sits there crying the whole time while the husband tells the story. They tried everything, different schools, etc., not to no avail. And this Rav, this tzaddik, asked them, "Do you have an uncle?" She said, "Do you have an uncle?" I'm sorry, an aunt. Excuse me, aunt. Sorry, aunt. I forgot that Let's try and figure out which one it was. The husband, I forgot what. Do you have an aunt? She says, yes. Does she live in South Africa? Yes. Did you ever offend her when you were younger? You said something to hurt her feelings and she didn't forgive you. He says, yes. I did. But he says, let me explain. This is so simple. I was a little kid at the time. I was a little kid. I was running around. She said something. I said something to offend her. She's very sensitive. I don't think she still holds a grudge, and have a on me, this grudge over the years. So she says you have to go get her forgiveness and get it in writing even, then you'll be able to have a child. Okay? Well, if you knew all the details, you should take it seriously. And maybe I was thinking that. Yeah, because I was thinking that. I didn't have any proof. I didn't say that. I said up north, the Kubal, sounds right. Okay, so they take it seriously. He gets the number from his father or mother, whatever it is. They call her up and says, "Hi, it's your nephew, so and so. Hi, how are you?" And he says, when I was a little, I offended you. I want to ask for forgiveness." She says, "I will not forgive you. There's no way. What you did is very offensive." That was the end of the conversation. So he told his wife, hey, this is like 25 years ago. Hold on to a, so this woman, unfortunately, the reason why she's holding her is she was a very sensitive person, and also her husband died when she was young, very young, and never had children. The hard life. So the wife says to the husband, "We got to go to South Africa, to Johannesburg. We have to go." Go? What do you mean? We have to get parents. Well, what do you mean? Rosh Hashanah is coming. Yeah. I'm sorry, Pesach. Rosh Hashanah is coming. The story was Pesach. Sorry. It's Pesach. It says Pesach's coming. It's Mamish a week from now. We're going. They book a ticket in a few days. They get there. They find some place to stay, hotel or something, and then they call her up and they say, "We want to come by." Says, "Come by." They come by. "We're here." So you came. So what brings us out to Johannesburg? Says, "You came to see me." "Yeah, I came to see you." And we had a discussion about forgiveness. I wanted to speak to you and be with you and hopefully be on good terms with you from now on. He says, well, you really offended me. You really did. You really hurt me a lot. I haven't had an easy life. Um, but you know what? I see you put through a lot, and you came to visit me. That means a lot. It shows you really care. I'm willing to forgive you. Baruch Hashem. So he says, but where are you staying? Oh, I'm staying. We're just staying at a hotel. We don't want to bother you. But you don't like staying with me? Don't like it? No, we'll stay. We'll stay. We're here. We're good. We'll come. We'll get our bags. We're coming. They settle in and says, Pesach's in 4 or 5 days. I assume you'll stay. No, we're planning on going back. What do you mean? Going back? You don't want to stay? Oh, we'll stay. We'll stay. We'll stay. We're good. We're going to stay. They stayed the whole Pesach. They described it as walking on eggshells for 8 days. Unfortunately, she's very sensitive. You can imagine so. She had a very difficult life. No one's blaming her, but they really needed this forgiveness. They wanted this forgiveness. They didn't want to stare. They didn't ruin that forgiveness anyway. So they stayed in. They were super nice the whole day. They repaired the relationship. It wasn't an easy thing to do because she's a very sensitive person. It's a lot of background. Holding a grudge for 25, 30 years is not something easily made up for in 8 days. So they did. They finally did, and they went off and they came back. And they went to this baby was of a Sarah, and after he told him, he says, "Okay, Baruch Hashem, you'll have a baby next year. Next year, l'moed hazak is chaya. It was Pesach. They had a baby on Pesach. Had to forget it's on Pesach. And baby on Pesach, the first of many, first of the son, and that was that Baruch Hashem. They did that. I think sometimes we think forgiveness is obviously important, and some people it comes easier, as you can imagine. That's a pretty extreme example, but I don't think we always think of what's on the line with the forgiveness. We have to forgive, not just that we want forgiveness, we have to forgive other people too. It's a hard thing to do. It's hard. It's hard, but can you imagine that the thoughts and the feelings and the hurt of another Jew are so powerful they can hold back someone from having a baby. So as Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are coming up, should really try to help forgive others and try to ask others for forgiveness. As humans, well, nitna Torah l'malchei hasharetz. Torah is not given to angels, so we have to be aware that we all make mistakes, and if there are those who need our forgiveness, we should forgive them. I know it's hard. We've all been hurt by many people sometimes in our life. And if we need to ask forgiveness, so then we should try our best, and they should be nice too. Ask to forgive us as well. It's a tall order, but one that we see carries great rewards. And Hashem should help us with this not so easy task of asking and receiving forgiveness, especially this time of year. Okay, so now we're on Daf Chaf Dalid Amid. We're really on, Samach Hey Amid Aleph, 65, and we're starting from 64b. Samach Dalid Beis right on the bottom. So over here, drink. Okay. So we are discussing the allotment. If a husband is away for whatever reason, perhaps he's away learning weekly, perhaps he's off on business, he appoints a third party that provides food for his wife. In other words, he's not with his wife. Someone else takes care of her food needs, etc., other needs as well. So we discussed around this very last line. The nosin lachati kab kidneys talks about some of the things she gets. She gets a half a kab, which is like 12 eggs, I think it is, of legumes, beans, but it doesn't mention wine. Vilu yain lokatan. It doesn't mention any allotment of wine that she gets. She doesn't get an allotment of wine. So Messiah Leila Rabbi Lazar. This is a proof backing to Rabbi Lazar. Dam Rabbi Lazar, page Samachay Aman Aleph, half of 65a. Right, Rabbi Lazar said, "Ein posting yenos to isha." A woman, especially in this particular circumstance, we'll see when her husband's not around, it leads to naturally loosens one's up line, and it will lead to immoral behavior, as Rashi points out. So when she's not with her husband, we don't want her to be in that state. Even when it is with her husband, we'll see. But certainly when she's not with her husband, he's away. Not the right thing to be doing, to be drinking. So the Gemara asks, "V'im Tomar." If you'll say we have a pasuk that seems to say that women do drink wine. This pasuk is really about like sort of a mashal in Hosea about how Klal Yisrael went after they went to other nations, and they say, "V'im Tomer." It says in the pasuk, "Achla acharei havai nosni lachmai." I will eat. I will go after my beloved, the other nations. Nosni lachmi umeimai. They give me my bread and my water. Tzamri upishti shamni v'shikuyai. They give me my wool, my linen, my oil, and my shikuyai. That seems to be referring to some mashka, some sort of liquid. Even though there are Zayin mashkos, not mashkim, Zayin mashkin, mashkin, awesome with Mishnah. There are 7 liquids that we normally talk about when it comes to that make something, prepare something to be tameh. But here we're talking normally when the Marshav says when the Tanakh talks about liquid, it's talking about water or wine. The pasuk already mentioned water, so therefore it must be talking about wine. So we see that a woman said, "Elcha, I will go," like a woman saying, "I will go because they provide for me wine." It sounds like it's a normal thing for women to drink wine. So they say no. So we say no. That's not what the pasuk means. It doesn't mean wine. What does it mean? Meshikuyai. Rather, it means davrim sha'isha mishtokekas alehem. Thing that woman like longs for, desires, wants. Umaynidu. What are they? Takshitim. They are the discussion of what this word takshitim means. So it has a normal meaning. Here it could mean like I saw some mention that it could mean like perfume. It may mean what's it called, like jewelry, etc. So whatever, it doesn't mean wine. So we see that the pasuk you think would say that what's normal for a woman to drink wine doesn't mean wine, rather. So we say that we don't provide with her wine when her husband's away. Certainly when her husband's away. We've discussed this, how much wine a woman is appropriate. If she's accustomed to it, if she's not accustomed to it, when her husband's there, when her husband's not there. Obviously the point being that one needs to act appropriately. Not just women, men too. Men we also know about drinking too much. It doesn't make one think logically, make poor decisions, etc. As we know. So, Darash Rabbi Yehuda Ish Kfar Neviria. This Rabbi Yehuda said the following. But Amri La, some say it was Ish Kfar Nefor Chayil, wherever he was from. This Rabbi Yehuda said the following. Minayin she'ein poskin yenos leisha. How do we know that when the husband is away and you're providing her food through a third party, how do we know that we don't set aside, make her a designated amount of wine? How do we know that? Shein poskin yain lisha. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, v'takam Chana acharei achla b'shilo. Chana, the mother of Shmuel Hanavi, when she was childless for many years, she went to Shiloh. She claimed the story. She poured out her heart before Hashem. She was. That's how we know how to daven Shemona Esrei. She moves her lips were moving, but she was speaking, but not audibly enough for other people to hear. Interesting whole story there. But V'takum Chana acharei achla b'Shilo. That's where the Mishkan was Shiloh then. You can see the remnants there also apparently. The Mishkan at Shiloh. V'takum Chana acharei achla b'Shilo. After she ate achla, her eating. So it's achla. After her eating in Shiloh, she got up to go. Ba'acharei shasa, and after drinking, it doesn't say her drink, it says drinking. As Tosas points out, should say shasosa, her drinking, if it meant specifically hers, changes. When it talks about her eating, it talks about her eating. When it talks about drinking, it talks about drinking in general, other people drink. Shasa, below shasa, or shasosa, right, Tosas. So that implies that she was not drinking wine. She was just eating. We see that a woman doesn't drink wine under normal circumstances. So the Gemara asks on that, Elamiyata, achla v'lo acha hanami. Wait, you're saying here that the way we're reading the pasuk means that Chana, only Chana, the mother of Shmuel, only she ate. This means her husband, Elkanah, did not eat. That's not, he obviously ate. It says in the pasuk, he was there, he's eating. Either, So what rather? How do we learn it? Anan midash nikra b'dibure kamrinan. Um, we learn we learn the pasuk in the manner that of whom it's speaking about. Who is the subject of the pasuk? That's the subject that the pasuk is addressing with. In other words, if the pasuk is talking about Chana of a female, so obviously it's used in a female manner. Michti begava ka'asik va'asi. The pasuk is talking about Chana, addressing what she's doing and what she's eating and her going on, her what she's doing. My taima shani. So it said achla, not because to exclude her husband. It's saying it's talking about her. So we talk about her eating. We're talking about her eating. We should talk about her drinking too. So my time is shani. So when it comes to drinking, why did it change and not talk about her drinking? Shmamina shasa velo shasas or shasasa. That we learn from this that she didn't drink. Then it changed it because she didn't drink. We're talking about her, but in this case, she didn't drink. So from this derivation of Rabbi Yehuda, we see that Chana did not drink wine, even though Eli accused her of such, but the Kohen Gadol, their conversation, but she did not drink wine, but she did. So we see, we're trying to bring it as a proof that a woman should not drink wine, even though we're really trying to bring a specific example about when she gets fed through a third party, you don't give her wine, but right now we're just speaking in generalities, that a woman, that we saw that Chana doesn't drink wine, women don't drink wine, but we're going to clarify this. It's going to be clarified and clarified. Yes. Right. Right. That's a good question. It's a good question. According to we quoted one in the Farish yesterday on the Mishnah, who says that they eat together, the husband and wife, or have relations, whatever, Mishabas l'Shabbos. So we're talking about a Talmud Chacham who comes on Friday night, so that would answer that question. But it doesn't seem that there are others who don't say like that. So I say they're talking about even the husband that goes away for a month or longer. So what does she do? It's a good question. She doesn't have wine. How does she make Kiddush? She doesn't make Kiddush on Challah. She can hear from other people. She yotzi from other people. She's yotzi with her husband normally during the week, during normal week. Gets invited out. It's a good question. That's a good question. You do need wine for certain things. Right. 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 That's the Gemara is going to say that soon. We'll have a whole discussion about that. Yeah. Right. In the Middle Ages, yeah, they drank wine, not water. But we'll see in a moment. Hold these thoughts because, as Alan said, we're going to talk about this is not the final conclusion. What's the Havmina? We have questions on Havmina, but we're going to talk about when do about drinking. We'll talk about that also. We'll talk about some women have more access to wine for different things. Like during the week, sometimes they use it for like a condiment or like for dipping. Or I'll talk about that. I know when I grew up, wine was in the refrigerator. I took it out for Shabbos. I went back to the refrigerator after Shabbos. Still today, me too, also. But they in different cultures, certainly Europe and in the time of the Gemara, that wine was more prominent. It wasn't just a beverage for kiddush. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Meisvei. I'm gonna ask you a question from a Bryce. Regila, a woman is accustomed to drinking. No stinla, you give her. So that's a question. We said before we don't give a woman to drink, especially when she's not away from her husband. And here we're saying that she does. She does get to drink. So which one is it? So the Gemara answer is Regila Shiny, a woman who's accustomed to drinking. Does get wine. We would give her some wine. No stinla. The Amar of Chanina Barkana. Chanina Barkana said this. Amar Shmuel. Chanina Barkana said the name of Shmuel. Regila nosin la kos echad. She'ena regila nosin la shnei kos. Let me translate it before we try to make sense out of that. A woman who's accustomed to drinking, we give her 1 cup. If she's not accustomed to, we give her 2 cups. That would seem opposite, right? If you would think if a woman is not accustomed, you want to give her less, more accustomed, and more. So my kamar, well, what is it? What does that mean? It seems backwards. What should be? So Amar Abai says as follows: Haki kamar. This is what Rav Chanina Barkana meant in the name of Shmuel. Haki kamar. Regila b'fnei bala shneko. So if she's accustomed when her husband is around in town, not feeding her through someone else, etc. B'fnei bala shneko. So if her husband's around, she's accustomed to drinking 2 cups of wine. Then shalom b'fnei bala, when her husband's not around, unless he's out of town and feeding her through a third party, etc. No sin la kos echad. You just give her 1. She's used to drinking 2. 1 will have no effect on her, essentially. Ein regila b'fnei bala ela kos echad. When her husband's around, she's only accustomed to drinking a single cup of wine. When her husband's only around, she's only accustomed to drinking a single cup of wine. Kos echad shalom b'fnei bala ein no sin la kol ikar. Then when her husband's not around, don't give her anything. Don't give her any wine. So that's the beginning of some clarification here. You see that the whole point of not providing the woman wine is when she's not accustomed to it. Not accustomed to it, it's going to have a negative effect on her, make her act inappropriately. But if she's accustomed to it, give her less than her normal what she drinks when her husband's around. So now it won't have an effect on her. Like 1 less. She normally drinks 1 when her husband's around, give her 1. 1 when her husband's around, give her nothing. So whatever give her enough so that doesn't affect her. So v'iboyasema, the Gemara is going to give a different potential. This is third to last narrow line. The Gemara is going to give another potential explanation of what we just said. Another potential explanation of what we just said. V'iboyasema. If you want, you could say as follows: Regila, if she's accustomed to drinking, nosnin la l'tzike kedera. Tzike kedera is a type of dish. It seems what it's referring to is that, as Rashi explains, referring to that you give her something like a condiment or something for dipping in. You give her, if she's accustomed, you give something to go along with her food, not necessarily for the food itself. One second, here we are here. Give her that. So when we're going to give an example, a very, very extreme example, but an example. Ravo said the name of Yochanan, an incident that happened with the daughter-in-law of Nachdimun ben Gurion. Nachdimun ben Gurion was a very wealthy, very, very wealthy man who lived at the time of around the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, second Beis Hamikdash. And he was one of the people who, during the Roman siege, he wanted to be able to help provide food for the people for very, very many years. But the Biryonim, called them fanatics, didn't allow them to do that. They burned all the food. But in any case, Bani Madurin was a very, very wealthy man. His daughter-in-law, we're talking about a situation, she married his son, and his son passed away, and and didn't have any children, so she was a Shomeres Yavam. She was waiting to be either Chalitza or Yibum from another son of Nachdim ben Gurion. And in the meantime, the rabbis had to decide how much food she should get, her allotment, because she didn't have her husband and she still should get food. But I don't know if she grew up wealthy, but she certainly had been accustomed to wealth, since she certainly married her husband from a very wealthy family. So we read the whole thing now with that introduction. Incident happened with the daughter-in-law of Nachdim ben Gurion, whose son, who was married to this woman, passed away, and now she fell to the brother for Yibum or Chalitza. The rabbis had to give her a certain amount of food to give her, and since she was wealthy, they gave her, as we said in the end of the Mishnah, Alam b'mechubad, it said in the Mishnah, according to the Mishnah, Akol lefi chvodo. If you're rich, Rambam interpreted the word chvodo in Ashir. If you're rich, then you have to give more. And obviously, he's very rich, so he gave more. What was her allotment? Pasul chamim sasayim yayin l'tzikei gedera, a very, very large amount of wine. L'tzikei gedera as like a condiment, as to dip her food in, to use with not directly to drink necessarily, but to eat me'erev Shabbos, l'erev Shabbos on a weekly basis. That was the allotment they gave her. So Amra Lahen, she, as the daughter-in-law, Akim Ben Gurion, said to them, the rabbis who gave her this very large amount, I mean, Yachasit, very large, I think it's very large, uh, relatively speaking, Amra Lahen, Kach Tifsaku L'Seichem. So too, you should decide for your daughters. It was a little bit of a negative thing she was saying, it seems, that she was saying, you're supplying me with so little. I don't know, it seems like quite a bit for a dipping. But I guess she was accustomed to extravagance in a very wealthy family. Tana, we learn in Brisa, Shomeres Yavam Haisa. As I mentioned before, the Brisa says her husband, the son of Nachim Meturim, passed away. She was waiting for the brother to either be Yibun or Chalitza with her. Velo anu achrei ara amein. And the rabbis, even though they would have been happy that their daughters would have have so much food and have such wealth, but they didn't answer after her blessing slash curse, amen, not just because she's meant it in a negative fashion, this is all you're giving me, but it would happen to be a lot, but because they don't want their daughters to be in her situation. They didn't say amen, like so too our daughters should have so much, because she was in an unfortunate situation. Her husband passed away, and they don't want the same thing happening, God forbid, to their own daughters. Okay. So far, we're at the second wide line. So far, what we learned is that we see that if a woman is accustomed to drinking with her husband, she can give her less when her husband's not around. The goal being not to give her more than she's accustomed to, so she behaves properly. As, okay, thank you. So we said before that the reason why we give her less wine is because a woman, like anyone else, wine affects a person. A person can act very in a way that they would not normally act. It makes a person lose all their senses and do appropriate things. And Rashi said specifically, it makes a person act immorally. That once a person makes a more loosen, more desire for cohabitation, for intercourse. So, and that applies to a man as well. But the Bryce is going to give an example here of what it can do to a woman. That seems a bit extreme, but here anyway. So Tana, we learn the Brisa, second wide line in the middle. Kos echad yaf liisha. 1 cup of wine, that's good for a woman. It's good, I assume if she's accustomed to it. Shnayim nivelhula. 1, it makes her act inappropriately. Shlosha tavas b'peh. If you give her 3, she'll request intercourse from her husband out loud. Loud enough for others to hear, which is inappropriate, as you can imagine. Arba, which is enough till they could be either completely knocked out. Afilu chamor tavas v'shuk ena makpedes. She'd be so extremely intoxicated, she'd have no idea what she's doing, and she was even willing to cohabit with a donkey from the marketplace. That's what this is not limited to women. This is men too. The Bryce is telling you how far you can go. The Gemara in Megillah talks about, I think it was Rav and someone else, I don't remember, that one from the Suda got so drunk he killed the other person, davened for him. He invited him back to the Suda for next year. He said, "No, thanks, not coming back." Anyway, so we see that it's not good stuff. You have to. We said that you give a woman to drink, or talking about a woman, often be a man. Men usually are accustomed to more wine, but you have to be careful. So we said as follows: Amr Rabba. Rabba says as follows: Lo shanu. What we just said about the amount a woman can have. Elash ein bala ima. That's when her husband's away, and she's accustomed to drinking too with her husband. As I think right? I think so. I don't recall. Who says she's accustomed to drinking too. So when her husband's not around, then one is appropriate. It's one is good for a woman. Aval bala ima less lanba. But when her husband is with her, then she can even drink 2 cups. That's okay. Okay, so Rabbi is interpreting that. If the husband's with her and she's accustomed to 2, she can drink 2. If he's not accustomed, she's accustomed to drink. Or she's not with her husband, she's accustomed to drink 2. So just drink 1. So now the Gemara is going to ask a question. V'chana the bala ima havai. What about Chana? We said Chana is the example. We said she didn't drink wine. She didn't drink wine, Chana. But her husband was with her. Elkanah was there. Elkanah was in there. He was with her. He was eating with her. So why didn't she go ahead and drink 1 cup? We're assuming she was accustomed to it. But let's assume she was. So the Gemara says, Achsanoi Shani. Uh, Achsanoi, which is different. A guest is different. Rav Huna says, Minayim Achsanoi, Sha'asr Betashma Shamita. That a guest should not have, as a way, should not cohabit with one's wife. There's different circumstances, and that's not a necessarily a blanket statement. That that's we get to in the Gemara. We can discuss more whenever we get to it. You know Shenamar, we see that they vayishkimu baboker, and after they were done, Chana, Elkanah, and their whole entourage, his other Penina and his other wife and their other children, her children, Penina's children, they got up to go vayishkimu baboker, yishtachnu v'lei Hashem, and they bowed down before Hashem. They were in the Mishkan. Vayeshuvu vayivo el beis. When they returned, they went back to their house. Haramasa, and that's where Elkanah and his family lived. Vayida Elkanah eschana yishto, and he knew her, and they had intercourse, cohabited. V'yiskara Hashem, and Hashem remembered her and gave her a child the first time she was barren. So the Gemara says, Hashda in. Now, when they returned home, Elkanah and his wife Chana were together. They cohabited. Yikara lo, they were away. They didn't. So, assuming that they couldn't cohabit, then that's why Chana didn't want to drink, because drinking makes people more desirous of cohabiting. So she laid off the drinking because she didn't want to be in a position that she didn't want to make her desirous of that, so she would not cohabit with her husband when she's away or wanted. Okay, so now we're continuing on. Some interesting incidents here in the Gemara. A couple incidences of women whose husband passed away, and they go to the Bezdin or to the Rav, whoever the Amora was at that time, and they're asking them to provide for them their food allotment. We're talking specifically about wine, which again gives us some more information about how much wine and what circumstances. Some of these are kind of interesting, to say the least. Okay, let's highlight it. Okay, Choma. They're spelled with an aleph or hey, depending on where we're looking at. Choma. It's about a third way down the wide lines. Choma de Bisu de Abaye. Choma, who was the wife of Abaye, and Abaye had passed away. Abaye lived a short amount of time. He was a descendant of Eli Cohen, who was the Cohen in the story, Cohen Gadol, the story of Chana. And so anyway, it's because how his sons acted, all the descendants were cursed to live short. So anyway, Abaye was one of them, where it says Abaye passed away, and his wife, whose name was Choma, Asilekame da Rabba. She came in front of Rabba. Rabba and Abaye, as you know, are familiar with each other. They're always interacting and disagreeing, the Gemara. And she came before for Rabba. Amrle, she said to Rabba, Pasukli mizoni, please designate for me mizonos from my husband's estate, food. Provide for me provisions, food. Pasukla, he designated. Pasuk lichamra, provide for me wine. He said, provide me wine. Amrla, so Rabba said to Choma, the widow of Abaye, Yadana benachmani, I know that Abaye, Nachmani, that's his other name, discuss that, doesn't drink wine. So why didn't he drink wine? Because Tosfos Rid says he was poor. Abaye was poor. So he wasn't accustomed to drinking wine. That's what Rabba was saying. Your husband who passed away was very poor. He didn't drink wine. I know he didn't drink wine. He couldn't afford it. Nachmani is an alternate name for Abaye. It's an interesting question why it was called that. Abaye was an orphan. His father died before he passed away, and his mother died during childbirth. It was right after Adam, I believe. And so he was adopted by his uncle, Rabba, and his uncle, so they shared a common grandfather. His name was Nachmani, and he didn't want to call him that. There's many reasons why Abaye is called Abaye. One of the reasons he didn't want to call him is his real name, because it's also his father's name. So they didn't want to call him that. So they were, Rabba was Abaye's uncle, so they shared a grandfather. Rabba's father was his grandfather. So if you call him by his real name, that you say using his father's real name. So I didn't want to call him that. Another explanation, he was a Yasam, his orphan. The pasuk says, "Asher b'cha yavucham Yasam." It's a reference to the fact that he was a Yasam, and he knew there was an orphan. But there are a number of reasons. Anyway, so sometimes they call him Nachmani. Anyway, he says, I know that Nachmani didn't drink wine. So how come you, his widow, is asking for an allotment of wine? And that was the Hashem Chasra. So Amrulai, she said to him, Chai Demar, by your life. It's like a oath, like a shua. Tahava mashkili bish shufrazik kihai. He used to drink, mashkili used to give me the drink from the shufrazi. Shufrazi is like a tall, long goblet of some sort. It held a lot of wine. So she's not just saying, I drank wine. Said, yeah, I had a lot of wine. She said, Kihai. And she showed her, like, based on how long it was by her arm. Bahade ka nachvile agle darad agile darad. When she picked up her arm to show him how long this goblet for drinking was, her arm, some of her arm got exposed. And nafal nahora b'beitina, and a light shined in the vest, and not because she was a great makubal, it's not because she was very beautiful, extremely beautiful, and her skin was very beautiful. It shined a light in the room. I don't know exactly what that means, but the point is she was very beautiful. So come Rava, all the base say, because of that attraction that Rava had, he went home to his wife. Tava labas Rav Chisda. He said to his wife, who was always Rava's wife is always referred to as Bas Rav Chisda. She was the daughter of Chisda, but they call her that more, Bas Rav Chisda. That's her prominent name. She said, he wanted to have intercourse with his wife to sort of subdue and get rid of that desire that he had from seeing this thing, the arm of the wife of the widow of Abai. So Amrle Bas Rav Chisda, she was a clever woman. She said, his wife said to Rava, Man hava beitina. Who was in the Bezdin today? So Amrullah. So let's try this Rava. Rava said to his wife, Choma the bisu dabaye. Choma, the wife of Abaye. So what did she do? Nafka Basra. She went out after her. The Nafka Abrasa Machtala bekufle the Shida, and she took like a leather shoe, it seems to be, instead of hitting her. Ada Afkala Mekule Mechuza. Actually chased her out of town, literally, chased her out of the city of Mechuza. Amrullah, he said to this Choma, the widow of Abaye, Katlas Lech Tlasa. You already killed 3 men. She was the wife of 3 men, Abaye being the third, the last, and they all died after being your wife. Because V'asa Lemiktal Achrina, and you want to come and kill the 4th? You want to like get this guy, her husband, to marry her, and and kill him as well? No way. So she chased him out of town, chased her out of town. The reason why we learned that before is Machlokas, Rebbe and someone else, I forget who, how many times it's a chazaka. Rebbe said even after 2, certainly by life and death situations like this. Others say 3. That's why Abaye was able to marry her, even though her previous 2 husbands had died. She's allowed to marry the 3rd time. 4th time you can't. But anyway, just she is a katlanis. She is like a woman who kills her husbands. Yeah. Yeah.
Why does she have to go to the rabbi's food? Surely she's in charge of her own food, money, whatever. Why does she have to go to the rabbi for the food?
Well, her children, her sons, inherit the father. The sons inherit the father. The wife gets to stay in the house, and they provide food for her. That's what we learned before. So the allotment, in this case, is based on that the sons have to provide food with her until she gets her ksuba. Now the rabbis would have to. Yeah, you're right. They should go to her. They should go to him, but they wanted them to, I guess, intervene. It's a good question you're asking because this is coming from a completely different direction. The Mishnah talked about a woman whose husband's alive and the husband's not around to provide food for her. So the husband would provide through a third party while he's away. And how much does he have to provide before he goes? Could be he's away, gets stuck or something. This is really coming from a different perspective. The husband's not around anymore. It's really a different type of Mishnah we're learning. Good question you're asking. It's really not there. It's a different type of situation. The only connection is that she wants the rabbis to designate her a certain amount that's appropriate for her, including wine. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, it could be. It could be. It could be. The Gemara is going to bring two more cases, which doesn't involve someone who killed their husbands, but it could be that's the precise circumstances, and it also could be that not everyone is so willing to part with their money, you know. So they had to go to Bezdin to sort of separate the possessor from the money. It's like a magnetic pole. Yeah. Rav is the Bezdin. No, his wife. No, Rava's wife said that. His wife. Yeah, the Basra Chista said that.
And also, how did they know that, according to other wife, she drank wine? He drank wine, lots of it. And they said, no, he didn't drink wine. So she must have had wine in the house. Because Abaye wouldn't have asked Rabbi for his own wine. She must have wine in the house.
She did. Yeah.
Why would she ask for?
Rava said she didn't. She said she did. We don't have a conclusion on that. The whole point. Yeah, yeah. We don't, from this first story, we don't have a conclusion. It's not really helpful. It's helpful in the sense that we learn something, obviously, but we don't learn about if a woman gets wine or not from that story. We end before she gets chased out of town before she gets run out of town before I have a chance to find anything else. So I have two more stories which we do learn about wine. When a woman gets wine as part of her allotment. Okay, so the Bisu de Rav Yosef. It's about halfway down the wide lines. The last word in line is beret. That'd be the easy way to see it. Go over a couple of words. It says the Bisu to Rav Yosef, beret de Rava. The wife of Rav Yosef, the son of Rava, whose husband had passed away, and she's a widow. Also the Kamed Rav Nechemya, beret de Rav Yosef. She came in front of her Nechemya, the Rav Yosef, to help to give her an allotment of food. Amrulay pasachli mizone. She said, please designate for me food I could eat. My husband passed away from his estate. Pasachla, he gave her food. He set up a system for her. Pasachli chamra, says, give me the drink, give me wine. Pasachla, he gave her as well. Amrullah, he said to her, why am I giving you? Yadana behu ne mechuza de shasu chamra. I know that the residents of Mechuza do drink wine. Previous story also was. So since you're accustomed to it, you may get less than you're used to, as we said before, but you still get some. So that's why he designated wine for her. So as we said before, the concept if you're accustomed to drinking, they do a lot for women wine, but less than she's used to. That city, Machuza, is place that drink wine. That was the town that Abaye's wife was from. So interesting. Okay. So next story. Right.
More like should have been
Right.
Right.
Right. Right. It seems that, as mentioned, Tosis really points out the Abaye was poor, honey, so that perhaps you could say he said Rava's response to Abaye's widow wasn't that you don't drink wine here. He didn't say that. He says, I know your late husband didn't drink wine. Like people in this town do drink wine, perhaps, but he didn't drink wine because he couldn't afford it. So he said, no, we drank in style. Okay. Perhaps, I don't know. That's just a pretty extreme example. These giant, tall, like beer mugs or steins, they call it, kind of thing. Okay. Let's the next story. Okay. About the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 lines from the bottom. The first one line is Chamra. Okay. Second word in. The Bisu Rav Yosef Berei de Menashe. The wife, the widow of Rav Yosef, the son of Menashe, Midvil, Asi the Kamed Rav Yosef. Came before Rav Yosef. She came before him to say, her husband passed away and she wants food, him to set up food for her. Amrle, pasukli mizone. She said to Rav Yosef, designate for me food. So pasukla. Pasukli chamra, designate for me wine. Pasukla. He'd also designate for her as well. Presumably because she was accustomed, or where she was from, they were accustomed to, and he gave her allotment of less than she's used to, but she still gave her some. Then she had a third request. Pasukli shiroi. Provide for me silk, like silk for garments or silk garments for Amrla, Shiroi Lama, what do you need something so extravagant for? What do you need silk for? Amrle, Loch ulechavrach ulechavroach. For you, your friends, and your friends' friends. That means, different ways of looking at it. Rashi seems to say it means referring to that I need to maintain my previous dignity. I need to maintain that dignity, or my late husband's dignity, walk around in a respectful fashion. That seems to be. And Talmidei Rabbi Yonah says that she's saying, for you and your friends, is I need to get married again. So I need to marry someone dignified, like you and the people you hang out with. Yeah. Someone dignified. So I need to dress in an honorable fashion. To do that, I need a proper stipend for proper dignified clothing. It seems to be still to make clothing. Yeah, correct. Okay, so let's go on with the Gemara. The Gemara analyze the next step in the Mishnah. Okay, Vanosan Lamita, he has to provide for a bed. Vanosan Lamita, let's find it in the Mishnah so I get to say the full thing here. Vanosan Lamita umafats umachatzelas. That's to give her a bed and like a soft mat and a hard mat. So the Gemara asks, mafats umachatzelas lama la diavla. This soft mat, this hard mat, why they give it to her? The assumption in the Gemara is that the beds had some leather stretched out over the frame. It wouldn't require this mat to make it soft. So if you have why are these things necessary? The Gemara asks. So the Gemara explains, Amar Papa ba'asra danehigi demalu puria bechavli. It's talking about a place where they're accustomed that their beds, puria is a bed, they attached like like ropes across. That was the other way that they made beds. I mentioned yesterday, Mishnah and Taros talks about this. They have like a bed. You could they either stretched out a piece of leather, and that would be pretty comfortable in of itself. Another way was they took ropes and they sort of crisscrossed it across as a support, and that would not be comfortable. So they had to put like a soft mat and a hard mat to make it usable. So that in that case, you have provided for it, right? And if you don't, said last words, the mivgar law. If you don't provide those, it causes her. It's uncomfortable, as Rashi says, and it causes her to age. It causes one to age more ill. Mivgar law. It's sorry law or maskinin also. It causes pain. It's uncomfortable, and it causes you to grow old. I guess. This poor sleep quality. So I guess this is a push for a good quality mattress. I don't know. Okay, so Tana Rabbana, that's it. Okay, so we talked about the bed. So Tana Rabbana, Ein nos and lakar v'kesas. We don't give. The Brisa says as follows: we don't provide her. The Mishnah talked about a lot of things we do provide. But this Brisa is going to say what you don't. Some of the things you don't provide. Tana Rabbana, Ein nos and lakar v'kesas. We don't provide her a pillow and like a mattress. Just the thing we gave her, the bed and the mats or whatever, are good enough. Don't have to provide a pillow and a mattress. If she wants it, she can buy herself. The husband doesn't have to provide it when he's away. Meshum Reb Nasan Amro Nosan. They said in the name of Reb Nasan, he says you do give her karvakesses. You do give her a pillow and a mattress. So what's the nature of this machlokas? Either you do or you don't give her these extra things. She can buy herself, but to be not here. So heichidami. What's the case exactly that they're arguing on? Idu orcha. If it's her normal way, it's her family, she grew up in that manner, and she's accustomed to that. So my time at Tanakama, how come the Tanakama says you don't give it to her? She's accustomed to it. We said, he said, Olin Ima, that, the wife, we said this concept, the wife goes up with her husband and you still have to maintain her previous way of living. when he gets married. So if she was accustomed to it, how come the Tanakama says we don't give it to her? If she didn't grow up that way, she's not accustomed to that. My time with Rabbi Nassan. How come Rabbi Nassan? So you do have to give it to her. So what's the case exactly that they're having this machlokas? So lo tzricha kagon. I'm sorry. No, my time with Rabbi Nachman doesn't low. So tzricha, we need it. The case is as follows. This is the case they're arguing about. Kagon and the orcha didei, alav orcha dida. His family, is the way he grew up, and his mishpacha and their custom is to have a karvakesis, a pillow and a mattress. Alav orcha dida. It's not her. She didn't grow up the way. She's not accustomed to it. So therefore, we're going to see that when he's with her, when he's around, she should get these, because just like he gets it, she gets. But when he's away, she doesn't necessarily need it. It's interesting. We'll discuss that maybe. An interesting concept. So Tanakama Sabar, Tanakama says she doesn't get it. Amar La, he says the husband can say to her, Ki azilna shalkilna lahu. When I go, I'll take my pillow and mattress with me. Vechi asina my sina lahu ba'adai. When I come back, I'll bring it back with me for you to have. When I'm around, I'll make sure you have it. So I don't have to give it to you when I'm away. That's an interesting concept. You think if the woman gets bumped up to his status, that means even when he's out of town or in town. It doesn't mean like only when he's around, but that's what it seems to imply here. But whatever. Rabbi Nassan says, Amralai, she could say to him, Zimnim dimisrami ben hashmashos. It's times you come home Erev Shabbos after sunset, before nightfall, and I won't be able to carry. So even though you'll come back every time with the mattress and the pillows, but it could happen. You come back to town late, Erev Shabbos, and you can come back yourself because you can still walk. You're in town, but you can't carry. You can't carry them with you. You can't carry them with you. Below matzis maisi level. You won't be able to carry them with you because it's already after sunset. And you're going to take, as Rashi says, you'll either take my mat, afachali, or as Rashi says, or you'll take the one that I bought out of my own money. I'll take my pillow or mattress that I bought out of my own money. Magnisli al ara. You make me lay on the ground, maybe on a bed of just ropes. I don't know exactly. But so the woman could say, no, even when you're away, I'm going to need this. So that's the nature of the machlokas. That's the nature of the machlokas. Anyway, so interesting kind of concept. Let's just do the last couple words so we can officially turn the page. But Nasan Lakipa has to give her this head covering. So that's not really what the next line is going to talk about. We're going to talk about the fact that he gives her 50, has to give her 50 zoos of clothing once a year, and he gives her shoes 3 times a year. So I wonder about that. Amar Le Rav Papa Labai. Papa said to Bai, Hi Tana, the author of this Mishnah, this Tana. Flip the page for a second. We'll go back to this tomorrow. Shaliach Artali, Rami Misane. Sounds like literally that means he's without clothing and wearing shoes. That's what it literally means. It means he seems like more concerned about your footwear than actual clothing. You get new clothes. She has to get new shoes 3 times a year, but new garments only gets once a year a lot. That has to last her. It sounds like he's more concerned about the shoes than he is the clothing. So we'll discuss that. Why tomorrow, why she gets shoes 3 times a year. That's a particular circumstance, and clothing only once. And we're out, exactly. That's the answer. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great day.